Of the day's business news, and for that I'm joined as always by Stephen Carroll.
Hello,
We're going to start here in France and a new growth estimate for the economy.
Yeah, France's central bank says the French economy will grow by 0.2% in the first 3 months of this year. That's largely in line with the estimates we're getting from other sources as well. Not by any means spectacular, but still showing that France, I suppose, at least is growing. This as new figures from the French National Statistics Office show industrial and manufacturing production grew slightly in the last 3 months of 2013. No great side of a huge pickup in the economy, but nonetheless, growth is better than recession, I suppose. Let's just take a look at how that news is going down on the markets. Here in Europe, it's been a generally positive start to the day, even on the CAC 40 in Paris, which is opening slightly up in the green. Shares, I'll hopefully get you those figures there in a moment. Shares in L'Oreal, I can tell you, the pharmaceutical company, or the cosmetics company rather, here in Paris are up over 4%. After the news that the Nestlé is considering reducing its stake in the company. Positive day too in the Asian markets. New figures showing the country logged a record low current account surplus, a key measure of trade. Didn't hurt the Nikkei in Tokyo though, and the rest of the Asian markets generally in the green.
Okay, well, as the French president, of course, is in the US today for a visit, and the economy is expected to be high on the agenda.
As always on these visits, when they're going to big countries, the economy is something they want to focus on. Presidents Hollande and Obama will be talking about their long history of economic cooperation. In fact, the French leader will also be meeting Christine Lagarde from the IMF, the head of the World Bank, and also a whole rake of CEOs on this trip. Delano de Souza has been taking a look at the agenda.
It's his second visit to America as president. After Washington, French President François Hollande will head to Silicon Valley, the nerve center of the global digital economy. He is scheduled to meet with the heads of internet giants like Facebook, Twitter, and Google. During his visit, Hollande will not be avoiding sensitive topics. The French president is aware of measures internet giants have taken to minimize taxes paid in France. Over the past few months, Hollande has been at loggerheads with Google over their privacy policies and their tax bill. Google has been under investigation by tax authorities in France for over 2 years and could be facing a bill of up to €1 billion in back taxes. In Silicon Valley, the president will be shown around by a group of French entrepreneurs who have made it their home. These include the founders of Exo Platform and Talend. The president will also meet Carlos Diaz, who started a movement amongst entrepreneurs in France against high commercial tax rates. Hollande will inaugurate the French Tech Hub, a structure to support young French talent, financed in part by public funds.
Well, here in France, a bit of a nightmare for some of the commuters today. Taxi drivers are on strike again.
Yeah, their second strike in a month, in fact. This over the issue of competition from private hire car services like Uber. Taxi drivers gathering at the two main airports here in Paris, heading towards the city and expected to block roads later. They're unhappy with the lower licensing costs that are facing those private hire car services. The government had tried to level the playing field by introducing a 15-minute delay for those car services, but the Council of State struck down that law, sending the government back to the drawing board. But plenty of taxi drivers continue to say the competition is unfair.
The license costs €240,000. Add to that what we pay for the car and the interest, plus taxes. We're fed up. My revenues are down. It's unacceptable.
It's unfair competition. They don't pay the same taxes as we do. Anyone could become a self-employed businessman. He'll dress nicely, buy a beautiful car, and solicit clients in airports and train stations.
Some of the concerns of Paris taxi drivers there. Let's move on with a look, though, at some of the day's other business stories. And Toyota is to stop making cars in Australia by the end of 2017 in a move that sees the end of the country's car manufacturing industry. 2,500 jobs will go after the Japanese firm announced it will halt production due to rising costs. The move puts at least another 20,000 jobs in the parts industry in jeopardy after General Motors and Ford both announced they were closing their factories too. BARCLAYS has begun an investigation into the theft of personal details of 27,000 of its customers. According to the newspaper The Mail on Sunday, the data included information on customers' passports, earnings and even their state of health. The bank says it's notified regulators of the inquiry and will be working with the authorities to find out who's responsible. And profits at the Japanese car maker Nissan jumped by 18% in the 9 months to the end of 2013. The figures were boosted by a weak yen and improved demand from the United States. Nissan sold 3.67 million cars over the period, up 1% on the same time previous year.
Finally, there seems to be lots of tragic animal stories around today, but this one is about a virtual animal that's become extinct, isn't it?
Yes, this is Flappy Bird, which you may or may not be familiar with. It's a smartphone game that's been a bit of an online craze. It was the most downloaded app on the App Store until recently, but the game's creator has decided to pull it from sale. That despite the fact that it was making some $50,000 a day in ad revenue last week. Nying Dong has said that he announced on Twitter on Saturday, in fact, that he was going to give 22 hours before pulling it for sale from the App Store, saying that he can't take it anymore. Now, he did clarify beyond that slightly to say that it wasn't for legal reasons and that he wasn't selling the game to anyone. He just decided he didn't want to put it on sale anymore. So a sad end to fans of Flappy Bird, but I'm told there are plenty of other similar games available that are ready to take its place.
I'm sure there'll be lots of game producers rushing to fill that void.
Indeed.
All right, thanks very much for that, Stephen Carroll, for the look at the business news. It's time now for a look at what's making international headlines. For that, I'm joined by William